I represent you out there, and I'm tired of putting my tail between my legs. This ain't negotiation time. This is Scarface, final scene, fucking bazookas under each arm. Say hello to my little friend.
The Sockjig Sneaker Podcast. Welcome to the Sneaker Twitter Recap Show. Welcome to episode 45 of the Sockjig Sneaker Podcast. I am your host, Sockjig. You can follow me on Twitter at Sockjig and on Instagram as well. On this episode, I talk with Sneaker Twitter's sneaker sleuth himself, Brandon. He's known online for finding early images of sneakers where he's either posted them on his own Twitter or in conjunction with Z Sneakerheads. The most well-known leak was when he found images of the Kobe 6 Mambacita from a retailer, and Vanessa Bryant saw them and was upset about it and called the sneakers unauthorized because her deal with Nike was over at the time. So we talk about that incident, and we talk about what it takes finding sneaker images early. We talk about getting credit from sneaker blogs or maybe no credit at all. We also talk about shifting from images to leaking Nike info, also about being a Cookgroup admin, and his goals in the sneaker space itself. Finally, we talk about Sneaker of the Year lists. This episode was recorded on November 25th, 2022 and published on November 28th, 2022. But before we start, a few notes here. I did not ask about his profile picture. If you don't know, his profile picture is of rapper Denzel Curry. When I posted a teaser to this episode using his profile picture, people were replying, asking, is he black? Brandon is not rapper Denzel Curry, and he's not black. He's a white kid who goes to Georgetown University. I probably should have asked about it in the interview, but honestly forgot. Also, he does sometimes appear on Instagram Live with Mr. Unloved Ones and my buddy Lex, and you can follow them on Instagram at Mr. Unloved Ones and LexLuther72. So, on to our guest. My guest today you may know from Twitter or Instagram for posting early retailer sneaker images. Last year, he was the first one to post product photos of the Kobe Mambacita 6, which caused some controversy when Vanessa Bryant herself saw them. So let's find out what happened and more from the sneaker sleuth himself. Please welcome Brandon. Brandon, how's it going?
Hey, what's up? It's going well. I like the sneaker sleuth reference. Just that I don't think people realize that I don't actually, like, it's in quotes because I have been called that by other people. I don't think of myself as a
No, I know.
sneaker sleuth, but
it's like calling yourself OG. I don't think you should call yourself OG. Only other people should call you OG. So if people are calling you sneaker sleuth, then you're the sneaker sleuth.
let's go.
All right. Okay, first question. Explain your @ How do I pronounce your @ What is this 1AN stuff? How do you say it?
So this actually comes from one of my Discord friends from a couple of years ago, who just like called me Brandonian. It was very, very strange nickname, but like, and only he called me that. But I went to go make a Twitter, and like Brandon, obviously taken. I don't want to be Brandon with a bunch of numbers, and so I tried Brandonian with an I, and that was taken. So I replaced the I with a 1, and so people call me Brandon 1AN. People call me Brandonian. It's really up to you to decide, I guess.
There you have. I honestly had no idea that it was supposed to be Brandonian. I was always like, Brandon Lan? Brandon 1 Ian? I don't know. Okay, the first thing I want to ask about is that you are well known on Twitter and a little bit on Instagram as well too for finding images from retailers for product photos for sneaker images and retailers early. How do you find this stuff? What is your go-to? Do you have like a method for every single site? Are you looking into the code? Are you hacking?
I mean,
what are you doing?
yeah, there's different methods for different sites. I used to do a lot of like European sites because Europe would often get like back in the beginning of COVID, Europe would have pairs earlier than America. And so European stores would take product photos and they'd upload them on their sites like earlier than the US sites. And so stuff like the Chicago SB Dunks and like all those from like fall 2020, like spring 2021, those were all on like Europe sites before they were on American sites. And so I had like basically like product scrapers where it would just collect the information for a given product, like price, image, title, and I would search by title and then find interesting stuff. A lot of the times it was dunks because like you would find a new dunk every couple of weeks back then, and so it was really easy to like pick out new stuff from these European sites. Now it's a lot more Nike.
Right.
Like I don't ever
Like
since
I know for Nike that you can basically, if you have the SKU for it, you can just go, you can go, anyone can go on their actual image receipt, go view image, and we'll see that they generate the image based on the SKU.
yep,
So if you have, say, the SKU of the Trophy Room 7s that came out recently,
yep.
when those first leaked, there, no one really had the SKU yet. So that's why no one really had the official product images. So that is the key that kind of unlocks it. Is that right?
Yeah, there was a little bit of an interesting development around I think it was like July or August when Sneaker News started posting a ton, and I mean a ton of Nike official photos with their watermarks on them. And it was because they had found some new way to access these images early. And so they were getting like Q3 and Q4 2022 photos earlier than expected. And Z Sneakerheads and I, as well as a few people on Discord who helped out, figured out a new way to like the way that they were using to access these images.
So there's a secret images cabal that you guys have.
Yeah, it was only temporary. I think after all these blogs and stuff started spamming the images because it's like they, when you get 10 new sets of images, most blogs can't resist posting them all at once and not like metering them out over the course of a few weeks.
Right.
And so Nike, I think, was like, this is a little bit earlier than we'd want, and they put a block on all of the images in this new way. So instead of like showing the actual product photo, it just says like image unavailable.
Right.
And so we're
They,
we're
they
back to the
patched.
old way. We've clipped ourselves basically in the
Yeah.
last 6
They
months.
patched that bug, is how
Yep.
in tech terms.
Yep, exactly.
So, and even on the retailers, on European retailer site, it's not like you just went slash images folder and there you just saw every images. It's like, I'm assuming that you have to find the product ID and you see that there's a system that this is how the existing images are shown using a product ID. And then you somehow figure out the product ID for, say, that Chicago SB, and you pop it in and there's the image. Something like that, right? Like the
Yeah,
trivial version of it.
exactly. There was a lot of existing resources on Discord already when I had like sort of entered this space that were like they were finding product information, and they would show like maybe one image. Like a lot of the big monitor providers have their own mesh scrapers because when like Foot Patrol and them used to drop those like late night restocks on their app, they'd have like scrapers to pick up the product information.
Mesh is
And
like a e-commerce solution that most of the European sites use.
yep. And so this thing already existed, but people didn't realize like you can get photos on here and then see all these like products earlier than expected, just because like this doesn't make you any money. So it's not as if somebody with some sort of like coding expertise or like a bypass or something like that, they're not looking at this and going, oh man, I'm really focused on getting these product photos. It's more
Right.
just like, we want to buy as many shoes as possible. We want to make as much money as possible. So they created this resource that worked perfectly for what I wanted, but they weren't using it for that purpose. They were using it for something else. And so I kind of saw that, made my own version of it, and then, just created the Twitter, and it ended up being a great hit. Like a lot of people saw this and were like, what's special about this? Like we already knew how to do it.
Right.
And that's not like, I feel like enough people didn't know or didn't understand enough to grow the page as I have today.
Yeah, like everyone just wants new info, what's coming out, right? And so brands themselves are not going to come up front and tell you what they're going to do in spring and summer or fall next year or so. But if they upload the image and someone scraped it and found it, then it's going to be posted and people want to know. So yeah, so my follow-up question about these sneaker blogs is, how often have they actually credited you when you were the ones where you found the images? Or do they just go, hey, these are official photos, Nike took these photos, you didn't take these photos, so fuck you?
It's actually, when I first started, it was actually pretty easy to get credit, mainly because I went through Z Sneakerheads, who has been so huge for me. Like, he's been super helpful.
Right.
And so by going through him, posting the pictures on my Twitter, and then sending the raw images for him to make on Instagram, he tags me on Instagram, he tags me on Twitter, and a lot of the blogs at first were like, oh, this is who he tagged. We're just going to source him because, like, Z Sneakerheads at the end of the day is like basically another blog. And
Yeah,
so if they want to,
he's established a rep and he's well known for doing this for a long time.
yeah. And so him tagging me allowed other blogs to tag me. And so it became pretty easy, at least at first, like summer, fall 2020, for me to get the credit that I was looking for. But after maybe I hit like 1,000 followers, like heading into the like spring of 2021, I noticed a lot of blogs would just like, repost pictures, not tag me. And it's like, I I guess I get it, because it's like I you're right, like I didn't take the photos, but I know you would not have had these pictures without me, and so it was
Right.
kind of frustrating. And then recently, it has got to the point where blogs like House of Heat have figured out their own ways to look at the sites that I used to post a lot. And so through me, they have come up with their own way to monitor these sites. And so they don't have to tag me anymore, but it's like,
Through
I
you,
know I know what you're
meaning
doing.
they figured out how you did it, but
Exactly.
not through you personally.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so it's like they don't have to tag me, but I know if I didn't exist, they would not have the capabilities to scrape these images. And that's a little bit, it's frustrating, but it's like, what are you gonna do? You know?
Yeah. No, I've experienced this a little bit in, say, some news or story that I've broken. And what happens is the story becomes something beyond and becomes bigger, and someone else might post it and tweet it, and then some big outlet might get it from there, and then the credits disappear as it goes further down the chain. And so, all I really want is for those first set of people who found it to say, "Hey, I got it from here." And then after that, I can't really control what people are saying or doing or how it does it. So I think you're kind of saying the same thing. It's like that.
Exactly.
You want
As
that initial credit from people, right?
Yep, as long as I can have that sort of link to a few pages, like if I can have the Z Sneakerheads or like Sneaker Bar Detroit, who's been pretty good at tagging me on most things, pages like that, as long as I can get some of them, it's like, it is what it is. The more frustrating thing as of late, because I've kind of shifted away from images and started doing like Nike info, is it's difficult to see how far pure words are spreading from my page. So there's plenty of people, I'm sure, who see my like Nike post, like my some sort of shock drop that I post about and then delete like 30 seconds later. It's
So
like, what am I going to do to make sure that I'm being credited with that? Because it's like, it's gone.
right. So yeah, let's get into Nike info, because it seems for a while there, it seemed like people had the plug with Nike info either directly from Nike or indirectly from Nike. I know at one point I was in a Discord where they really did. It was like some guy who had Nike info and he's posting it. And I saw other Cookgroup admins in there, and they would essentially, send that info to their own cook groups. Is that what you're doing? Are you getting stuff from the Nike plug?
I mean, it's been a mix. At first, I was using a lot of like intuition and just checking the Nike servers. So like, I'm not trying to clip the way that I do things or
Right, yeah,
anything,
right,
but
exactly. I'm not asking you to clip anything, but
yeah.
yeah, just wondering about like the process of it.
Yeah, it's just like if I see something pop up where it's like this product has like changed, or like they've Nike has like increased the stock on this product, or they've changed something about the way that it's loaded. To me, that's kind of like, and especially, given the context of like a release. So it's like for, what's a good example? For like
Uh,
I guess the 11s like during the sneakers live or after the sneakers live.
right,
I mean, everybody kind of knows that they're going to do something for the 11s at some point, and mid-November is usually the time frame to do it. And then I see that they change the way that it's loaded, and they increase the amount of pairs that they have showing. Like, they have like more sizes show in stock than they did, the day before. You can kind of get an idea, like, okay, something's about to happen. And then from there, it's like I would ask my info person, and then it would be like, oh, okay, this is happening after the live.
so
This is
like
gonna
a double confirmation kind of like.
exactly, because I there's a lot of pages on Twitter right now, especially, who just kind of see information posted in some sort of Discord group that they're paying for, and then they rip it straight up and they just post it. And
Right,
so I have like come up with my own sort of method where it's me, like it's actually me doing this, and that's taken some time, and that's taken connections.
I saw you
But
post like hex codes and stuff like that one
oh
day, and
yeah,
I
for
was
the
like,
for the cowards.
and then it was like deleted, and then I know CSS, I know hex code, and I was like, oh, I'm sure it's something. I don't really care that much, but I'm sure someone entered it in and got the clue.
Yeah, no, I was getting a lot of replies of just solving the puzzle completely in my replies.
Right.
And it was like, I,
And,
I
and those
appreciate
were
that you
the
figured
color
it out,
code.
but
Those were the color codes for the
yeah,
DJ Khaled, right?
yep. And they were like, oh, he just posted these 3 color codes. They match up to this shoe. This shoe is dropping at noon. And it's like, yeah, I appreciate you figured it out, but like, this is a puzzle. Like, you shouldn't be leaving this in my
Right.
replies. But that's part of the game. I love doing puzzles because it's like, that satisfaction of figuring it out as the person who sees the tweet. It's like, man, you feel happy about the release even if you miss.
Right. So going back to the finding sneaker images, I want to ask about the Kobe 6 Mambacita story because this happened in 2021. And
Yep.
just to set it up a bit, this was because the shoe was already released and shock drop and all that kind of stuff or whatever it was, early access. But at the time, this is like early 2021, the Nike deal had been announced that it's no longer, it's like done, and there's only 2 or 3 Kobe 6s coming out. And at the time, everyone is very sensitive to, everyone was wondering why the deal was not struck. And so that was when you found, I think that Kobe was going to go be entered into the Hall of Fame around that same time as well, too.
Yep.
So that was when you found Kobe 6 Mambacita images from Foot Patrol. And I
Yep.
think, so was it earlier that people had already started getting them in hand, or was that afterwards?
I think it was around the same time. I'm not 100% sure. Cuz I did like finding these Kobe images at first was like completely normal. I was the first one to post the 5 rings Kobe 5s
Right.
when those, like, before those released in like September 2020. And so seeing these images pop up the way that they did, it was like there was nothing special about it, even if this was supposedly the end of the deal. And we also at this time had Soul Heat on Feet posting all the potential Kobe 6 colorways that were supposed to come out before the deal was canceled. So like the Think Pinks
Right.
and stuff like that. And so for me, seeing a Kobe 6 was like, oh, this is whatever. This is not a big deal. And so I had posted it just casually on my Twitter with in conjunction with Z Sneakerheads. I did like a little bit of a tease because I posted like the back heel by itself, and then I posted it, and nothing happened for about like a week, and then I think people got it in hand, and then she saw those people, like Vanessa saw the people who
Right.
had it in hand, and then saw the pictures that I had posted, and then that became like a huge deal.
And even like some ball players, maybe it's Chris Middleton or someone, even like bought them resale and was wearing them in game. And she was, legitimately, she was like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
And so I know you're not as active on Instagram, but I remember looking at the replies and seeing that. And it was a lot of people tagging Vanessa Bryant, people hating you for
Yep.
posting photos. And really, like, from my point of view, I understand that you found and scraped these images and posted them. And I could tell right away they were from Foot Patrol because of the little marble-ish background,
Yep, exactly.
right? And so I don't think you had said it was from Foot Patrol. I think that came out later. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't like to I don't like to post the exact sites that I get stuff from, just because it's like it becomes easier for, especially me back then when I had like 500 followers. It's easy for a blog to like be like, oh, he's scraping from this site. We will do that. We will cut him out. He doesn't need to exist. And
Right.
so it was like I didn't back then. I would get these images and I would not tell people where they were from, because it was just like you don't you don't want people to know if they have no idea. But like you said, anybody who saw it, who knows Foot Patrol product photos, like you can tell because it's very distinct. They have that sort of marble background and they have the same sort of angles that they use every time.
So what did people say to you? Like, were they asking how you got this, where you got this, why did you post this? Like, what was the reaction you were getting on the most part?
So this was actually really funny because the reaction came when I was on this like high school field trip to a minor league baseball game, and my
So you're on
phone
the
was
you're
at
on the
like,
bus and
yep, I'm on the bus. My phone is at like 30% because I've been using it all day. And then this sort of thing comes out, and people are like tagging me, and I'm getting DMs from like Brendan Dunn, who for me, it's like, at this time I watched every single episode of FSR. It's like, oh my God, this guy that I watch is like messaging me, is asking me questions. And so I was like freaking out. And then I'm looking at my Instagram because I posted all three angles. Because at this point in time, I really wanted to start using my Instagram for product photos. And it's like all the replies were like at Vanessa Bryant. People were calling me like a bad person for posting these because
yeah.
I think they just assumed that these were my pairs.
I think they assumed you had them in hand and you took
Yeah.
photos and posted them, right?
And so at one point, like, I think this was the next day, I had woke up and somebody had sent me one of the lamest death threats ever.
Jeez.
Because it's like, well, I guess people were so freaked out about the whole Kobe situation that year that it was like any sort of negative energy brought to this person was like they took extreme offense to that.
Yeah.
And it was like I can totally understand the emotional situation that these people were in, but I'm just the messenger here, man. Like there's no need to no
At,
no need to tell me to kill myself.
at
Like
the
I
same
just
time, you're not trying to say I just found these on Foot Patrol. Ask Foot
exactly.
Patrol, right? You're trying to
Yeah.
protect where you got them from as
So
well.
I have to be like, these aren't mine. It's from a store in Europe. Like, please don't hate on me. And so I ended up doing a story Q&A on Instagram, which is one of the strangest things I've ever done. And it was just all these people asking me these very basic questions, because I stuff like that really made me realize how in the weeds I was with this whole image thing, and they
Because
were
you're,
just asking
you're
me
you're
so
probably
many.
getting non-sneaker people coming at you too, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
And so after like a couple weeks, it died down, and I never ended up getting sort of any direct comment from like Vanessa or Nike or whoever.
Has
But I
Nike ever
could
reached out to you? Maybe not about this one, but other leaked images that you've posted?
no, never. But I can definitely tell like Foot Patrol stopped getting shoes so early. Like that whole JD size Foot Patrol, they stopped getting shoes as early as they were after that incident. And
Yeah.
there's been other moments where it's like I post something and Nike decides it's too early, and I can tell, and they stop. They cut this side off that I'm using or something like that.
Right. And yeah, honestly, that is That's on Nike and their distribution. It was probably a mistake that Foot Patrol even got those. They were probably supposed to get those Steelers color ones, the white and yellow and black.
Yep.
And I can't remember the official name of them. Pop, maybe.
I'm thinking Bruce Lee
Yeah, maybe
because
Bruce
they
Lee.
did the Bruce Lee, the yellow and black ones
Right.
and the white and black ones.
Yeah. And so at the time with COVID and supply chains, and it was probably easy to get stuff mixed up, but we're seeing now retailers are probably getting stuff way early, and then they're told to hold on to it, or they just sit on a ship container somewhere, and that's how these shoes end up getting mold and stuff. So
So
um
yeah, it's for everybody who's got moldy Chicago's. You can blame me. It was my fault.
so yeah, so it's like their own supply chain issues is probably what is the reason why Foot Patrol got theirs early, and then when they open a box, it's like they're just gonna start taking photos of whatever they have, right?
Yep.
Because if they see a SKU and stuff, and Nike sent them this, and they don't notice that the SKU on the box is slightly off, they're just gonna take photos and ship them out to people, and that's how
Yeah.
people got
And
them in hand.
yeah, that was the biggest thing, that they were just like, they got this shipment of these Kobe's and they were just like, they fulfilled the wrong pairs for the raffle they were running. You're right, it was the pop pair, but it was like, that was how all the people in Europe were getting them in hand, where it was like they entered for the pop pair and they got sent this unreleased pair of Kobe's by accident. And
Right.
to me, I feel like that was more serious than me just posting the photos of them. But I don't know if that ever was like addressed in the way that my photos were.
It's different. It's like when you're a person online, you might get a reaction. When you're just a brand online, you it's easy for the brand to deflect it and just be like, because there's no single person,
Hmm.
right? Like I said, but when Jound fucks up, no one's going after the main Jound band, whatever his name, Justin Saunders. They're just going fuck Jound, and then the next day, like you said, it blows over, and then no one's really talking about it.
We gotta go after Justin Saunders stuff. This goat shit is ridiculous. That's
Honestly, they're just like, "Oh, we can't do the distribution. Goat does 3PL, third party logistics. So they have the solution for us. And then we give them the ratio of whatever, 60% for the public, 40% for Goat, whatever it is. I'm sure they send a little chart or table over, and that's how it's done.
Oh, speaking of goat, actually, after I had sent that tweet to you about goat and their Black Friday thing,
Right.
I won $450 on
Really?
goat, and for like goat credit or whatever. And so that was, I feel like they saw that message and they were like, we gotta bless up.
Oh, I was talking about how I don't understand this Goat Friday thing. And I made a
Well, I
joke
mean,
about it's like Eyes Wide Shut party and people are having an orgy or something on there. And then you had replied as well too. And I basically said that because my first tweet was basically about Goat doesn't really care about anything except for Black Friday. And it's true. Like if you look up the business people who run Goat, they're not like sneaker people. They're just business people, and they fell into the sneaker business stuff, and that's why they do the third party logistics and all the other stuff on the side. And so whereas when Josh Luber and StockX, you could tell he was like at least somewhat involved because he was,
mhm.
doing the camp list stuff before, and he's out there, dressed like Poochie and in Bape and stuff like that too, right?
Well, I mean, the business people know what they're doing, giving me $450. Like, great way for me to start liking them publicly.
Jeez, I got to start entering these eyes wide shut contests then. So another question I had was about being a Discord admin. You told me that you were like a admin for a cook group on Discord. What is involved in being an actual, like, I don't know if you were the owner or head of it, or at least the one who provides content and stuff. What is your duties? What were you supposed to do on Discord for these cook groups?
It was actually a lot. Like, I never managed any of the finance aspect or like the pricing aspect. I just did shoes and clothes predictions, and then I managed all like the channels, so like all the monitors and stuff. That was all me, and it's like a lot of work, especially for me at the time in high school. It's like I would get home from a long day of school and I would get on Discord and like prepare a 5-page Google Docs site list
Right.
for a given release. And it was like, it was a lot of work. You have to like, if you really want to be good at it, you need to have an intimate understanding of like the market at that time, because you need to have like good predictions, because there's plenty of shoes where people can be like, oh, obviously this shoe, obviously Chicago ones are going to do well,
Right.
but it takes a special person to be like, oh, these sambas, these this collab, like this samba collaboration
These
that's
sporty and
coming out.
rich ones.
Yeah, exactly. It's like for people to see that and diagnose that as like oh, every single person in this group should buy this because it's like it is going to sell for $400. That's like not everybody can do that, and so you really need to have market comprehension. You need to be really paying attention to every single release, because there's so many small things that you can easily, like, you can see on your feed and just like ignore them, and then it's like you check a week later and you just missed like a 100% ROI investment.
Right.
And so it did take a lot of work. I have like a separate Instagram where I'm following like 700 retailers or something like that,
Yeah.
and I would check that every few hours and save sites that were like releasing like in year 4 is first come first serve or something like that, so that I could make these site lists. And then I
Especially
was
some random site in New Zealand or
oh
whatever
yeah,
that will ship where it doesn't have the restrictions.
yeah, exactly. And then I was pretty good with Supreme, because a lot of people are like, they look at Supreme now and they're like, oh my god, it's dead. And yeah, it's like, it's not what it used to be, but there have still been plenty of things that release every week, and you can be like, oh, if I buy this and hold it for 3 months, it's going to be like great investment. Like,
You need to have that eye for Supreme too. You need to see when they release something that's rare and something they haven't done before.
mm-hmm,
And I always say on here, like, sometimes I'll buy a sneaker on sale, or in the past I did. I remember buying a Adder Air Puma and being like,
mm,
it was before a cold wall and it had a block in the back, and I said, this is a cool shoe. I like this shoe. I bought it on 50% off, 60% off. And my thought was, if I think this is a cool shoe and I believe in my sneaker sense, then someone out there is going to think it's a cool shoe, and they don't have my ability to buy it and hold it for the 3 months, like you said. And so they will pay the resale price.
mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so you need to have this kind of, like you said, the projection and just the confidence and just the knowledge of what has released and why this one is different and stands out.
Yep. And that's exactly what happened. Like, one of the last things I posted about was Metallica Vans, which restocked on like Metallica's site like over the summer.
Yeah.
And that's like, what regular Cook Group admin would see that and be like, who, like Metallica Vans, like who gives a fuck?
Right.
Like that's not like a normal shoe where you'd see people talking about it in the sneaker space. But it's like, for the people who are really good, the people who can like see these things ahead of time, that was like, you buy it and it's immediately like $200 for a pair of Vans, because the Metallica fans were so into it.
Yep.
And it's like,
It's probably, it might be like an eBay sell instead of
yeah,
on StockX, whereas like the average person in a Cook Group or whatever is probably just, immediately goes to StockX or Goat and looks for the listing and looks for bids.
exactly. And so being able to not only recognize that, but also convince all of these like kids basically to listen to your advice, that was another key part of it. Because unlike Twitter, where you can like choose who to engage with and choose who to listen to, like people who are in your group are paying money
Right.
to see what you're going to say. And so it's like, you can't fuck up. Like, if I made a bad mistake, like if I predicted something was going to resell and it ended up like tanking, people like look at me different. People look at me like an idiot, and they don't take my advice in the future. And so I like prided myself on being really good at finding the right things. And I think I did a pretty good job of it. But yeah,
It ends
it's
up being
definitely
too
tough.
much work eventually, and then the market changed as well too, right?
Yep, exactly. Like market changes, my life changes, the whole like group situation changed. Like all these groups are like closing because it's just not like sustainable for them.
Are
And
they
so
are they out getting real jobs now?
I don't know. There's plenty of people who I still talk to from Tsunami who are just like they're still doing their thing, they're still reselling, but there's also plenty of people who like they work in business or they work in finance or something like that. And so it was nice for me to do this at the time in life that I was at, where it
Right.
was like I'm still a student, like I can still go to school and then get a job in the future. But for those people, it's like I wonder where they're at. I wonder like for the 30-year-old Cookgroup admin, what are you doing right now?
Honestly, I used to be asked all the time to be an admin, and I've just said no to everyone. And because, like, sometimes I would make these predictions on stuff on Twitter. Like I said, it's easier to do that when you're fewer followers than it is now. I probably wouldn't. Like, I didn't talk about, hey, buy Bay size sporty and rich sambas.
Hmm.
I told that to my group chat, and a couple of people did. And like, but like even that, you had to be aware of Wales Bonner Samba
Yep,
selling
exactly.
and stuff. So if you're not even aware of that, you can't draw the line. But yeah, I just didn't want the stress. I didn't want to. I didn't want to come home from work and then hop onto Discord. And like I said, life moves on too. So when you go from high school to university, then it's probably better to be in university and
Yeah,
do all the dumb
exactly.
shit you're supposed to do in university than go home and be on Discord.
Yeah, that's why I've liked Twitter so much because there's no expectation that running a group has. Like when you're doing information for a group, like you need to cover anything and everything. But like on Twitter, I can sleep through the Velvet Dunk shock drop on sneakers and not post anything about it. I can wake up at 1 and be like, nobody's gonna get pissed at me over this. Like it is
Right.
what it is.
Yeah. Speaking of Twitter, I was thinking about Twitter beefs. And have you got into Twitter beefs as well too? I see sometimes you're replying to certain people, and my question is this a real beef, or is this like when you turn off the app, you don't think about it anymore?
I mean, I'd like to get on here and be like, oh, I make fun of these people on the app, and then I go about my day not thinking about them. But certainly, like, I think the best example is probably Sneakers Leaker, who
Right.
I think we've resolved our issues, but when he was growing his page, he used to like basically take every single Nike info thing word for word from me, and he would repost it. And he was gaining followers at an absurd rate. I think he's like over 100,000 followers right now. And back then, it was like
It's the
he would
branding of
just,
sneakers leaker too that
yep,
helps.
exactly. He would just like see something that was on my. He would have notifications on for me on like a burner or something like that, and because he had blocked me, and then he would just see my tweet. I would delete it as I do because I don't want it to spread too far with my name attached. And then he would just copy and paste the same thing, and he would get like 1,000 likes, and he would leave it up, and it,
Yeah, if you
it
deleted it, then it's not yours; it's his now, right?
yeah, exactly. And so it was like December 2021 around then when I had just like I was like, fuck it. I'm pissed at this guy for just constantly gaining more attention and being less careful than I was with information. So I'm just going to post some fake shit and get him to fall for it. And he did. It was like easiest thing in my life. I posted a picture of Cool Grays, deleted it. He said Cool Grays shock dropping tomorrow, and I said, "You idiot. I made this up. Literally nobody has posted about this." And
Trap.
for like it's stuff like that where it's like I don't I try not to get into like arguments about little things with people, but when like credit is really important to me. And so for something like that where it was like I felt like I was being slighted, he was doing better than I was and he wasn't putting in the work that I was. And so I felt like I needed to humiliate him in front of everybody. And I think I did a I think I did a pretty effective job of that.
Was it resolved after that? I assumed it would get worse after that.
No, he stopped copying for me directly. I wouldn't like, because the one giveaway was like every post would be after me, and so he found some new source or something like that, and he would like beat me once or twice, and I'd be like, okay, like he's no longer just getting his information straight from me. It is what it is. He'll keep doing his thing. He kept me blocked until I like a month ago, where he messaged me on Instagram and he's like, "Can we talk?" And he apologized,
Well, that's
and
good.
then he unblocked me. But it's like, people get into regular beefs, and that's just not my speed. I prefer to argue about uh, product photos.
Have you thought about watermarking these product photos, or is that like a step too far and you're adding your watermark to say Foot Patrol's images or whoever?
That exact. I think it's too far. Just because it's like,
I agree.
I'm not taking these pictures. Like I don't want to take the credit for actually like being the photographer in this situation. And I think putting my watermark on somebody else's photo is like, that's just going about things the wrong way. That's why whenever I see, I think like House of Heat is probably the House of Heat or Soul Retriever, probably the best two examples, where it's like they will get images and they will put their little like Soul Retriever watermark, or like House of Heat will just type out House of Heat in some sort of text over the shoe.
Right.
And it's like, I think that's a little bit too far, just because like you didn't take these photos, you're taking them from a website. You're not like crediting said website in your post or in your Instagram. You're just like, for all people know, you took the photos yourself. And I think that's a little bit too far. I don't like tagging the stores because I don't want them to see that and be like, okay, we're going to change the way that we do things.
Right.
But like, people can recognize the angles that the photos are from, and they can attribute the photos themselves.
Right.
And so I think like watermarking them is like you're taking credit for something you're not doing.
Do you feel an anxiety of like, I gotta get the next leak?
Sometimes I I think I go through phases. Images especially, it's like you kind of get comfortable being the first, being the only one on some site, and then a blog gets it before you, and it's like, oh shit, this page is just so much bigger than me. Like
Right.
I could be rendered irrelevant in a few weeks. So I feel some sort of obligation to like beat them or come up with some new way to do things. I think I've found my own niche as of late, and so I don't get as worried when I'm not first or only. But back like even 3 months ago, I definitely felt that way. Where it was like, if I missed something, it was like, oh shit, like this could be the downward spiral. I need to figure something out now.
Honestly, I've talked about this on the podcast before and maybe on Twitter as well, is that I could be a sneakers leaker if I wanted to, but I don't want that anxiety either. And I've found it that it's just not sustainable personally for me. I'd rather be out here, be known for my thoughts and opinion or just jokes and
Mm-hmm.
memes than sneaker leaking, because that is at least sustainable, right? I can keep doing
Yep.
this podcast and I can have my thoughts on Kanye being, released and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have to have the anxiety of filling it out with, this is the next Nike SB dunk that's coming out.
Yep. I mean, at the beginning of my page, I had a goal of like creating my own sort of blog, where it was like I would be the official source for all this information, and I'd be first because I was like more in tune with certain sites than most blogs were at the time. And I would have this sort of like level of personality that like blogs can't really have. And so in like 2020, 2021, that was what I sought to do. I sought to like be first with all this stuff. But I think over the last few months I've kind of realized, you're right. It's just not sustainable for me to be doing this, because it's just you put in so much work. It's like when I hear a rumor about some sort of Nike release, like you cannot imagine how much work it takes for me to like figure something out and have it be like locked in 100%. because I
Especially if you're
can't.
double sourcing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I can't like hear one person say it and be like, okay, like I did this one thing, they're right. I just like for me that's not settled. I need to like double and triple check every time. And so I think that my goal of the page as of late has been to like land some sort of position with a blog, like be sort of like picked out by somebody else and be like, oh, okay, we want you to be a part of this. So
Please,
I
please come work at us with us at Complex. That's what you want.
I mean, it not. I mean, it doesn't have to be complex necessarily, but it's like just to go to a place where I don't have the sole responsibility to do everything, but I can still sort of maintain the presence that I've built.
Right.
Because I don't want in a year for me to be like, I'm done with shoes, my Twitter's gone. Because that's like entirely possible if I keep doing things the way that I'm doing them right now.
Right.
I want to stay in this space because I love the people that I've met here. And so for me, I feel like the best way to do that is to be folded into some sort of like larger group, whether that's like at like another cook group or a blog or something like that, just to sort of take all of the responsibility off of my shoulders.
Honestly, my advice is that these blogs aren't out to help anybody. They're not even there to credit you when it's easy. They're not even there to say thank you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they are not out there. They're not equipped to pluck anyone out and say, "You, sir, are doing great work." I mean,
Yeah.
no one's ever said that to me. I'm not expecting it from anyone. So I told Sneaker Fetish the same thing when he was on this podcast, and I asked him what is his goal, and he basically said the same kind of thing, like a sneakers host or correspondent on Complex or whatever. And I was basically like, if they're not even like crediting you now, then how likely is it that Joel the Puma is going to come out and find you? So that's
Yeah.
not to say that you can apply and get yourself in if that's what you really want. I'm not trying to shatter any dreams here or anything like that, but I'm just saying to instead of having expectations from others, it's better to just kind of set your own agenda, set your own expectations, and do it yourself.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And I don't think I'm necessarily looking at it like please come grab me, but it's like my ultimate goal is to just be able to maintain the same presence that I've made without the response like the insane responsibility of like what I'm doing right now. So I mean like I don't know whether that would be applying to like nice kicks or something like that or just reducing the amount that I'm doing,
Right.
but you're right in saying that it's not sustainable. And so I need to figure out a way to make it more sustainable
Yeah. No,
before
honestly,
I lose out.
I would focus on university, finishing school, getting bitches. That's what I'd be focusing on. I don't know. That's my unsolicited advice. Sockjig says, go get bitches. um, um, but yeah, you're right. Like I said, you want credit. You need to establish yourself, but you're also within the time and that you have available with the changes in life right now, right?
Mhm. That's why I'm always like Z Sneakerheads just had his like 10th anniversary of his like page existing,
Yeah.
and to me that's like one of the most impressive feats I've ever seen in the sneaker space. Being able to maintain the relevance that he has for the last 10 years, it's incredible that like that's something sustainable for him.
No, it totally is, and it's like it's easy to lose interest. It's easy to move on. It's easy to lose access to the Sockjig Sneaker Podcast. Welcome to the Twitter Recap Show. Welcome to the Sneaker Twitter Recap Show. Information, because really at the end of the day, you could have a connection to someone and your connection is with someone giving you information, and that person could leave and go to Reebok or whatever, right? And then don't have any connection to the brand itself because your connection was to a person there.
Oh shit! I won the fucking fleas, the Grinches, the cactus plant things. They just sent me an email. Sorry, that was
No
just
worries.
like I can't believe I actually won a raffle. That's crazy.
Hold on, let me pause because I want to.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, let
What
me
the
just check
fuck?
out here. This is great potting while we check out. Okay, so we just paused for both of us so we could check out of the Cactus Plant Flea Market, Grinch or Green or whatever, Overgrown or whatever they're called. So as I said, as I asked Brandon offline, how are you going to wear these ones? How are you going to, what's your fit for these?
I plan on having nothing on, just like a pair of boxers, because I think like there's so much fur and fuzz on this. Like it'll make up for me having no clothes on. So
Yeah, they're not going to look at the,
yeah,
they're
no,
only going
they'll
to look
they'll
at the
just see the
sneakers.
shoes and be like, "Wow, those are crazy," and no problem.
Will you actually like open the lid and like take them out and hold them in hand? Or will you immediately sell them on StockX or go with the box still sealed?
Oh, I'll definitely open them. It's always very strange to see people who like they get a bunch of shoes and they don't even like open the boxes and they just ship them out because it's like you might have a problem with this shoe, but it's like you really don't want to see it. I feel like this is a piece of art that needs to be observed.
I honestly, I did that with the Panda Dunks, but that's a
Oh,
Panda Dunk. I
that's
don't need
fair.
to see
That's
that
fair.
shoe. I see that shoe enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so finally, I wanted to ask about, you posted this on Twitter as well. Your sneaker of the year. Is your sneaker of the year the Louis Vuitton Air Force One?
I went on this little tangent with Jerlisa Nicole about what makes a sneaker of the year
Right.
because I had argued that like it's not even the lost and founds, which a lot of people are like putting on their list, and I feel like a shoe like that, which is kind of just a rehash of an existing color with like a few new details, I don't feel like that should be like in consideration because it's like it's not there's nothing new, there's nothing different. And so I was like talking to her because she was like, I really like the Gucci Gazelle. She thought that that was a good pick, and I was just thinking about like what makes a sneaker of the year. To me, it's like accessibility of release. So not only like do they need to have a good release method, it needs to like be somewhat reasonably priced.
And that's why Trophy Room One's never won sneaker of the year that one
Yeah,
year.
exactly. It needs to be like new in a sense. I think people like I use the word innovation in quotes in my thread, I think, because I think saying innovation is in sneakers is kind of a little bit goofy.
Yeah.
But just redoing a color that already exists, I feel like that's not really sneaker of the year worthy. Because it's like, yeah, it looks good, but like we knew that in 1985 when Jordan wore the ones. It's like there's nothing new here.
But if you put a nipple on a Jordan 4 and make it mauve, then that is new.
Oh yeah, that's huge. I mean I don't know. I think my because I put those at number one, but to me the real new sneaker of the year was the Salmons, the ACS Pro Advanced, which is like, yeah,
Oh,
it's a little bit
the Gorpcore
yeah, a
pick?
little bit gorpcore for me to say, but I felt like that was something new. We haven't really seen people rocking Salmons like that until like maybe like late last year, this year.
Yeah.
And I thought like seeing those on foot, like because I bought both the black and the white pair, and I love them. Like I love wearing them, even though I think I probably look goofy in them. It's still just a super cool shoe,
I have them. I
and
haven't worn mine yet.
I think it gives a really cool vibe. It's not like the XT6 Salmons where it's like you need to have your rain jacket with all the zippers type of fit.
Right.
It's like you can kind of wear these with like casually,
Well,
and they look good.
I was joking and harassing my friend Doug that all Solomons basically look the same, and at least those ACS ones look a little bit different, even though they
Mm.
got the same, dental floss
Yep.
lacing.
Yeah. That's probably my least favorite part about it. I never know how to like tighten them, so I kind of just wear them as they are.
I honestly might be swayed to thinking that the Lost and Found ones are the sneaker of the year, just because the story and stuff was so different. But I totally understand why it feels like there should be a separate rule or separate category for seemingly retros, whereas the Ama Manier 4 doesn't feel, is obviously a Jordan 4 retro, but like you said, there's It's a collab. It's never been in that color before. It's never had nipple rings before.
Yep.
It's never had, the story that with the video submissions and everything like that
Yeah.
connected to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also like a little bit of a time capsule for the year where you have like people look back on 2018 and Complex picking like the React Element shoes as like their sneaker of the year,
Yeah.
and they're like, that was a terrible choice. And it's like, well, not really. Like this was a new model that people really liked in current year, and it's like you can't really be mad at that when they're not super relevant now. It's like, yeah, that was the sneaker of the year 4 years ago. It's a time capsule in a sense.
It's also like they have to kind of project it too of where it will be going forward, because I think they've done the same thing where they've re-looked at old lists and kind of recategorized them. But at the time, it really did feel like Boost and React was the future and stuff. But really, Nike themselves seemed to have just said, "Nah, screw this shoe," and just threw it aside. So if they admitted to missing the mark, then that's fine. I think they missed the mark on that one.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to sneaker of the year, people see a holiday release from a brand that they like, and they're like immediately just like, this has to be it. And I think we as a collective need to be more unique when it comes to choosing. Like, yeah, everybody is like, oh my god, we need the Almond Year fours or the threes or anything like that. Like we need those,
Right.
and it's like pick something that you like. Like pick something that you like that is unique to yourself. And even though I disagree with Charlisa about the gazelles, it's like I respect her for being like, this is one of my favorite shoes of the year,
Right.
just because like I don't see most people picking that. It's such a unique take to be like, yeah, this is up there. And I think more people in general just need to be more personal, more unique when it comes to picking a shoe that they really like. Like don't just pick the fours or the ones because like that's what everybody else has. Pick something crazy. Pick some Asics.
Yeah. Honestly, my most worn favorite sneaker of the year was actually released last year, and I got it on sale this year and wore it most of this year. Was the Angelo Bach E6 Gel Kiano 14,
Hmm.
and it looks like like a transformer kind of thing. But whatever, that shoe is just ultra comfortable. I never had a Kiano 14 before, so even though it didn't release in 21, it might not be. It's not, I'm not going to go on my Twitter and say it's the sneaker of the year, because it's like saying that is like you're trying to project it what it is for everyone.
Hmm.
And so I will say it is my personal sneaker of the year, and the it was the one that I wore the most. I'm with you there. That
Yeah, I
pick
mean,
A6, pick something that's personal to you.
yeah, I'm really encouraging people to go with the whole to lean into the whole mesh sneaker trend that's been happening in the last few like 6 months or so. Like pick those House Studios gel 1030s. Pick like the 1906R. Even pick the Jound A6, which I think are like too expensive for their own good. But pick something like that where it's like this is a uniquely 2022 trend. I feel,
Right.
and so pick something that encapsulates current year.
Yeah,
Pick
because
something that you like.
like the Louis Vuitton, yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it looks like a suitcase, but who got it? Who's wearing it? No one. And so it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, and if you did see someone, even in New York City, you would assume, did they get that from Canal Street? That's probably the first assumption you would have, like depending on what the person looked like and their fit and everything.
Especially the product photo that like people were using to choose like the LVs. It's like they're picking the one from the auction. Like I
Right.
can I can see a world where people wear the GR colorways, GR in quotes, the ones that are at Louis Vuitton, the ones that you like could have bought if you spent $10,000 at their stores on like a monthly basis. But for those auction pairs, it's like, man, they come in that special suitcase. They come in that like cool box. Like nobody at all is ever going to wear those.
Yeah.
Like there's no chance. And so to be like, yeah, this shoe that you will never see on someone's feet is the sneaker of the year. That's like the exact opposite of what it should be.
Honestly, I love, like, people think I don't like complex, but I honestly love when they do this kind of stuff because it's complex being complex, which is, if you ever have to repeat someone's name, it's usually just code for that person's an asshole. Like Andrew is Andrew, right? So
Yep.
no one ever says that when it's for a positive, but this is who they are. This is what they want. They want Fat Joe and Vashti and someone like that on their panel. They don't want random Joe Blow. Here on our panel is Sockjig, right? They don't want that at all. They just want someone people know. And so I want them to continue being who they are and be true to it, because that leaves it easier for the rest of us to be authentic and real here.
I also think it's like they from their uh, lofty perch as complex, they can look down on their Instagram comments and all
They're
the
BuzzFeed ivory towers.
all this spam, like get $10,000 today, or like the spam bots, and like the people who are just kind of regurgitating whatever popular opinion is out right now. And they're kind of like, yeah, we can't really trust any of these Joe Schmoes to actually come up with a real opinion. They're
Right.
just like, we set the tone and they follow.
Yeah.
And so I think it's easy for them to just write the general public off, when I feel like they could definitely make a sneaker of the year panel with like people on Twitter if they really wanted to.
But they don't
it's-
respect any one of them. Why would
exactly.
they? So they would not do that. So it's like, if you got your BuzzFeed ivory tower list, keep making those lists. That makes it easier personally for me to make content out here. So I'm not asking them to change anything. I want them to keep doing it. Like, show who you are. If you're out of touch, please stay out of touch and continue doing it.
Exactly. Just like they're in their lane, and I think people are coming around to realize that. I think people have I think people still do have a lot of respect for these pages, but it's like, perspective is really important in sneakers, because it's like, for some people this is a rich man's game. It's like, who can spend the most money, who can have the most sneakers.
Right.
And so people are finally realizing after this list, like, yeah, complex is coming from a place of like affluence.
Right.
And these are the people who can afford these.
Yeah, it's out of touch. And there's a sense of entitlement in sneakerheads, and you have to come from a sense of comfort in terms of being able to purchase as many sneakers as some of us do. And I can say I'm at that point in my life now where I can do that, but not always, right? I was recently asked, like, am I an OG? And I was like, not really, in that my parents are immigrants. I didn't have money at that time wasn't even going to consider asking my parents to go buy it. Was I around when Michael Jordan dunked from the free throw line and everything? Yes, I was. I saw all that kind of stuff. But did I ask mom to buy 2 pairs of Jordan 1s or Jordan 3s or whatever at the time? And I was like, no, I didn't, because I knew not to ask, because I knew we couldn't afford it. So it's like, I'm not an OG in terms of someone's qualifications of what an OG is. And like I said earlier, I don't think you should call yourself an OG for that, because what does it really mean? Does it mean, do you come from this affluence where you were able to get all that stuff and you're only able to contribute if you did? That's why I don't look down on someone who's 21 or whatever, who's just getting into sneakers as well either. It's like, what's the point of gatekeeping? Just, if you like the shoe, wear the shoe.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice being that person on the other side, being that like young kid who got into sneakers like when he was 12 and saw like the KD4s or whatever at a Foot Locker and was like, oh my God, I need these for middle school basketball. And it's like being in that position where it's like, yeah, I know I will never be that guy who was like, yeah, I saw MJ dunk. I saw him come up through the league, because that was just not me.
Right.
So to not even be considered for that sort of label is kind of freeing.
Were you there on Nike Talk? Could you handle it on Nike Talk? It's like,
it's like, no, I wasn't, but like, I'm not. I still have this like respect from the people who are respected, and so I think for me that's all that I really need.
Right. I think that's a good spot to end. I respect you, Brandon. Go out there, keep doing what you're doing. Like I said, don't feel anxiety to have to leak something. People are following you at this point because of who you are, not because of things that you posted in the past. So I would work on establishing that. And of course, go out there and continue to have fun in university, finish school, and like I said, get bitches.
Of course. Always a necessity.
All right. You know how I end the show. Do you want to end the show with me as well?
Of course.
All right. So thank you everyone for listening. See you next time. And of course,
go
fuck yourself.